particularly in irrigation. Thank you.
Keith Locke.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Good-hearted New Zealanders were shocked when their Prime Minister so bluntly rejected the appeals of Tamil boat people who had arrived in Indonesia on the Alicia to come to New Zealand. John Key said, "Our very simple message to them is they are not welcome here." It is so much against the New Zealand character to be so heartless to people who have probably experienced great tragedy in their lives and are fleeing ongoing persecution. Those Tamils on the Alicia probably had family members among the estimated 40,000 Tamils killed in the final phase of the Sri Lankan Civil War. They may have been displaced from their homes, or they may have relatives among the thousands of Tamils still detained in prison camps. To add insult to injury, John Key attacked the boat people as queue jumpers. This was odd because John Key's own mother was an asylum seeker who fled from Nazi Germany to Britain in 1939. For Jewish refugees like her, there was no queue to join. They simply took their chances and fled, often crossing borders illegally and without passports, to seek refuge in places like Britain. John Key said yesterday that when asylum seekers, quote, land at our airports, we turn them back.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard. Order. Point of order has been called. A point of order has been called.
Mr Speaker, I'm reluctant to interrupt, my colleague at this point, but I note that the government members aren't. Sir, it's generally been a matter of taste not to bring family members of that into the debates in the way that the member has. I think generally it's been really frowned upon in the House because members are elected, not their family members.
The member makes a good point, and I didn't stop the honourable member because I was listening carefully to see if he said anything negative about the member's family member. But even despite that, I think the Honourable Trevor Mallard has raised a good point that it's best not to bring family members into debate.
Point of order?
Well, point of order, Keith Locke.
Yes, I did think about that when I formulated this speech, but I'm not in any way criticising John Key's mother or her relationship. I'm just drawing, I think, a friendly parallel, that's all. Yeah.
I've not stopped the honourable member. I just asked him to bear in mind the valid point raised by the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Keith Locke. John Key said yesterday that when asylum seekers land at our airports, we turn them back. And it would have been very bad if John Key's mother had been turned back into Hitler's Germany.
Order. I think the member is now starting to... that is, in my view, getting into territory that is unfortunate. I think that is unhelpful. We do not bring family members into debate, and especially to use it against a member themselves is in my view, not... I'd ask the member to desist from that. Keith Locke.
Yeah. John Key has forgotten that we're required under the 1951 Refugee Convention to process all asylum seekers arriving at our shores and accept those who are genuinely in danger of persecution back home. There is really no difference between refugees who arrive directly at our airports, those who come from refugee camps in Thailand or Kenya, and those who are processed by the UNHCR when they arrive in Indonesia on boats. Last year we took in several Sri Lankan Tamil boat people who had been taken aboard an Australian boat, the Oceanic Viking, and processed by the UNHCR. John Key, and I may not be conscious, is in effect playing up to a redneck gallery of xenophobes who see refugees and sometimes all people of other cultures as a threat to our society, whereas the truth is the opposite. Refugees starting a new life here are highly motivated to achieve and have their kids achieve. The Sri Lankan Tamil community, with a significant proportion of refugees in it, is one of the highest achieving communities in New Zealand, full of doctors, engineers and other professionals. Campbell Live had a program last night on how well the Afghan Tampa boys, boat people taken in 10 years ago, are prospering in New Zealand. John Key also raised the spectre of hordes of boat people swamping New Zealand. He said that, quote, if you take this boat, there are thousands and thousands of other boats that will come, end quote. That is so silly. Of course refugees want to come to New Zealand. It's a great place. And our reputation as a hospitable place was enhanced 10 years ago when we took in Afghan boat people from the Tampa after they'd been callously rejected by John Howard's Australian government. Yet in the 10 years since, not a single asylum seeker's boat has made it to New Zealand. Why is this? Because it is cheaper and easier to travel in a smaller boat from Sri Lanka to Indonesia or Australia. And it is possible that a boat might make it to New Zealand. A couple of boats have made it to Canada, but thousands and thousands of boats, that's not really on. We should welcome the fact that asylum seekers want to come to New Zealand. It should warm our hearts to be so appreciated. If one or two boats do happen to turn up sometime, why not give refuge to those on board if they are genuine asylum seekers? There is room in our country for more Sri Lankan asylum seekers. In the last 3 years, we haven't even filled our 750 annual quota, taking in 700 in 2008, 709 in 2009-10 and 527 last year, 2010-11. Why not do it? We can arrange it through the UNHCR. And it would also be good for us to continue cooperating with Australian authorities to take in some of the many boat people that arrive in that country's waters, as we did last year, taking in some of the Sri Lankan Tamils from the Australian customs boat, the Oceanic Viking. Thank you.
Chris Ochenvoll.